5:30, we're going to call the Board of Public Works for October 2nd, 2023 to order. Approval of the minutes of September 19th, 2023 Board of Public Works meeting. Motion by Derek, second. Mike, any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, hearing none, going once, going twice. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to construction updates presented by Tim Rasmus, Street Superintendent, and followed by Josh. I will remember you this time.
All right.
City Engineer.
Some key takeaways for the road construction projects that the street division is responsible for over the last couple of weeks. On St. Joe's, the west half of the road was paved and the repairs of the longitudinal and transverse joints were poured today. Catch basin repairs along with updating ramps for ADA compliance will continue until that work is complete. We're currently on American Asphalt's schedule for the week of 10/23 to pave the east half. Once those lanes are paved, we will attack the intersection of St. Joe's and Arnold, and the overlay of that intersection will connect the new asphalt to the north and the new asphalt of the reconstructed Arnold Street to the west. At the end of this last week, the pre-construction meeting was held for the 50/50 culvert replacement out on 8th and Hawthorne. Though the installation of these culverts will be handled by Wood County Highway Department, the street division will have a heavy hand in the resident notification, trash recycling and mail coordination, installation of temporary pedestrian bridge, sawing and removal of the existing guardrail. Also, due to the rain last week, American Asphalt did postpone the rough shape-in of Edison. We are expecting to see them there later this week so we can complete the black dirt seeding along with setting structures. The mill in place project of Becker, Maple to Daggy started today, and we're on schedule to have this section pulverized on 10/17. At the end of this week, we'll be setting up the temporary traffic control for the homecoming parade from the middle school to the high school, which affects Peach from 4th to Becker. And last week during the rain, we were able to remove the planters downtown. The planters downtown that were removed are to remove them out of the way of our snow plowing operations. We're working with Main Street to help them get the rest of their planters moved to a different location, or at least the plants pulled out of the planters in between our busy construction schedule. That ends the construction update for me.
Any questions? Seeing none. Josh?
I don't have a lot to add. I think we talked last time, Arnold Street from St. Joe's to the west was probably nearly completed. It is now completed, paved, pavement markings down, everything. So that project is complete. Tim mentioned the 8th and Hawthorne culvert replacement. You can see in your packet, the existing ones are pretty well shot. So we're putting a new 12-foot by 4-foot concrete box culvert in there, about the same length. Rip wrapping some of the channel, clearing it out, making sure it flows better. So that'll clean that area up. And finally, the Lincoln Avenue project, we talked a little briefly earlier. All the sewer laterals and water services are done being installed. They are starting to install storm sewer this week, and paving is scheduled for the week of October 12th, that midweek.
Tim?
I'd like to thank Tim Cassie for taking the lead on the 8th and Hawthorne culvert project, and Josh with his work on that project too, to save the city about $55,000 on that project.
Any questions?
One other thing. At the airport on next Monday, they are starting the runway project. That's $536,000 worth of runway improvements. We're going to grind the cracks, put new asphalt down, and reseal the joints. The city's expense to that $500,000 project is $10,000.
That's good to hear. Any questions? Seeing none, we're moving on to the approval of the trial of the solar-powered string lights in the 200 block of South Central Avenue, presented by Kaylee Gomez, Main Street, Marshfield Executive Director. Kelly?
So I don't think it's any surprise that the design committee is always trying to make downtown more pedestrian focused rather than car focused, which is always our challenge with the two lane on both sides, both because of noise and just because of unsightliness. So we know that greenery is something that tends to be a traffic calming measure. So we're really grateful for those street trees and the planters. And I do have to thank Tim because he's worked so hard to try and catch up with all of our plans with the planters and the events. So thank you for that. One of their latest endeavors is to see lights both for ambiance and then also for drawing attention to the businesses on the side streets up in those street trees. And we have a unique challenge because there aren't any outlets at the base of those street trees. You'd have to string something overhead. A place we've seen that is Point. They do actually string lights from the trees over to the outlets that are attached to their light poles, but they're a little closer together, and I don't think that that would look good, and I don't think it would be safe here downtown. So the design committee's really been looking at options, and they thought they'd try solar first to see if snow would cause problems, because it would be something where we'd have to wire a small panel about this big. We wouldn't use anything commercial grade to test it out because we don't want to do a big investment on the first trial, and we'd only be doing it on one single block with about 8 trees. So that's what they'd like to test between this fall and next spring, and then see how it goes. And if it seems like something that's doable, look at maybe something a little more heavy duty, or if it works really well, just use the regular residential grade ones that we found.
Any questions? Tom, you want to on the,
We'd look for a recommendation to allow them to do 8 trees on the 200 block of South Central Avenue.
second? Any discussion? Ross?
One question, when the trees are growing, then how do you accommodate that, the wiring and such? You just have to monitor them over year after year?
Yeah, I think it would be just like anything else that we have, just keeping an eye on it, seeing if there are problems. I would imagine that if they really significantly grow, the lights would stop working, and that would be our indicator.
And the majority of the trees were chosen for their species to fit within those planter boxes that we designed with that back in 2000. So we're not seeing huge growth spurts in some of those trees, and they're approaching almost 15 years old now.
Question I have, the solar powered lights, are they, is that a commercial grade light you're buying?
It's not. Right now with the test, we're testing some that actually some of our members have in their yard that have worked in the snow. They didn't want to invest a ton in the first trial. So we're going to see how this goes. And then if we need to, then we would look at more of an upgraded version of lights. We have Karen Miller on the design committee, and she's of course spoken with her husband, who's an electrician, with this as well. So we're hoping that it gives us an idea.
Now, solar powered, I understand, you know, some solar powered is great, some, what kind of a solar power panel are you gonna, it's just like I would buy it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's really smart. It's like a stake that you would put in your lawn.
okay,
Mhm.
all right. Any other questions? Derek?
I'll ask one. In terms of the panel location, just
Mhm.
because of obviously snow removal and stuff, is that something that would be up towards the top of the tree and then strung down?
That's what we were thinking. We might have to move them partway through the winter. If we went towards the base of the tree versus getting them up on a branch, we're going to see what takes the best.
Okay, thank you.
I think that you're gonna find that the citizens are gonna like that, especially around Christmas.
I hope so.
Get a little more. Anybody that remembers Christmas years ago, and I'm talking 50, 60 years ago, we had quite a Christmas light up. We just don't do it anymore, and it's really good work. So we need a motion on that?
Get a motion in a
Had a
second.
motion in
Okay.
a second.
Should be a vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Review of discussion of chapter 11.106 of the municipal on the weed control presented by Tom Tertier, Director of Public Works.
Okay, last week we discussed the issue that a resident brought forward for having some butterfly habitat in their yard, and our municipal code does allow for the planting of prairie grasses in their yards to help with butterflies. The other question that came up at the last meeting was the timeline for, when we get received notice and then when we actually, go out and actually would mow or do anything in that sort. So, and Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll just kind of go through what I am aware of. So we were initially advertised prior to the mowing season, in the paper, media, and other sources to let people know that the weed ordinance is in effect for the summer. Um, the majority of our complaints are received from the GIS complaint system that we have that's online. And then they verify that it comes from a citizen of the city. Within a day or so, they take photos of the lawn and measure the height of the lawn, and then send out a letter to that property owner if it is an exceedance of the height limitations. And again, that takes about a week and a half. We, even though there's this timeline that we use in the ordinance, it's a week and a half about a timeline for that to actually go through the process, making sure they got their letter and such. They then take photos, and if it is done, they close out the project and request. If it's not done, they schedule the mowing, and then that is completed. They take photos and then they invoice after the mowing is complete. So I want to just give a little history. In 2023, to date, we've had 43 complaints. 8 were actually mowed and billed of those 43 complaints. The majority that receive complaints do mow their own property after they receive the letter. In 2022, we had 65 complaints, 23 properties were mowed, 8 were by the same property owner. So it's not a lot that we receive on this, and we do have provisions to provide for locations where prairie grasses can be grown. There's examples on First Presbyterian as you drive out on Adler Road, and some of we tried it over on Veterans Parkway a few years back. I didn't know if Tim wanted to add anything to it, but that's kind of where we're at with that discussion. I didn't know if there were any other questions or anything else that need to be discussed with that.
Any questions? Russ?
So we were chatting before the meeting, but if you could reiterate, so if a resident wanted to plant for butterfly habitat, they're able to do that, but not the entire lawn.
I don't know if it gives you a limitation on how much of their lawn, but they have to have a certain type of seed. They have to have prairie grasses. And they probably wouldn't want them to plant our ditch.
So in the case before us, the resident could not convert the lawn to a prairie lawn?
They could, yeah, and other than our ditch.
Yeah.
In the right of way. That'd be totally up to them.
I don't think I've ever seen too much of a problem. The biggest one is the ones that we don't want is Pete and Charlie and them. They just love the crop.
So earlier, Russ and I were discussing this, and Russ says, most of the time I put a recommendation into my memos, and I didn't do that on this one. So I'm gonna recommend that we leave the ordinance as is.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Actually, Mike would be the first, I just recommend.
Oh,
I'll second.
second, okay, now. Any other discussion on this issue? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Set time for the Board of Public Works meeting on October 16th.
All right, on October 16th, we have 3 meetings that are gonna be held that same evening. And so we've been talking with JLC and Plan Commission and Finance Budget to try to fit these meetings all together in one day, because a lot of people are gonna be attending the League of Municipalities meeting. So we're looking at having the availability of sometime between 5 and 6 to start the meeting, either 5, 5:15, 5:30, or 6. We're still working out the details on that. I just wanted to find out if there were any concerns without any timeline in there. There might, yeah, I think there is. There is actually that night too, yeah. So we're trying to get a lot of stuff in. We're trying to keep the agenda. Okay.
Yeah, second that, because I got a fair board meeting that I always try to get to right after Public Works on the third Monday.
I will push to move it earlier if I can. Perfect. All right,
I'm gonna be gone, so wherever I am, if I can zoom it, I'll zoom it.
Okay.
If I'm not in the middle of the ocean someplace, maybe not. Which I'm trying to do right now. Okay, anything else? If not, recommended items for future agendas? Seeing none,
I'll move to adjourn.
a motion to adjourn, second.
Second,
All those in favor, aye?
aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.